my final product, my magazine followed most of the codes and conventions of Kerrang magazine, which was the magazine which I deconstructed. Um, my front cover, the name of my artist is the largest thing on my page, even larger than my header, because that shows that my model and Lucy Jones, my artist, is the most important thing on this page and also in the magazine. This just complies with the hierarchy of information, but the name Rock Circuit overlays my image. This goes against the hierarchy, and this I did this because I wanted the font to be readable, and you wouldn't have been able to read it if it was under the guitar. But that's also why I put the font size slightly smaller than her name, because then it starts to comply with the hierarchy of needs again. So I have the small headers all the way down both sides. They have like little titles and then information underneath. These in theory would be the same on every single magazine that was produced, and therefore the target audience would know where to look when they wanted to find certain pieces of information. We also have the name Jessica Smith, which is bigger than all the smaller headers, but it's smaller than the masthead and it's smaller than the name Lucy Jones. That's because she's only really featured on my contents page and would have been on another page if we were doing more than just really a double page spread. But since she's not the most important thing in the magazine, but comes up pretty close, that's why she's smaller, but still larger than some of the other text around those words. The word 75p are in the same font as the masthead. This is more to keep synergy and not to make the masthead stand out completely on its own. But also the word 75p does actually need attention drawn to it, since it is something that the target audience would be looking for, especially if this was their first time buying it. Obviously, I have the barcode and the numbers underneath, which are a genuine code and convention of every single magazine out there, because you need them to buy them. And Kerrang magazine had it on its front cover, although some magazines do have them on their back covers. In the bottom right corner, we also have the issue number and the date underneath, which is obviously needed, because I've chosen issue number 25 because this would be a weekly load of issues. Although it only says August and doesn't actually say which week in August, but that is something that I would amend on later copies. The background is red because this was one of the colours in my colour palette, and I have the black, the white, and obviously the red, but I don't have the yellow from my colour palette because that mainly shows up on my double page spread. But since the red was in my brief, I said the red was a huge part of my colour palette, and that's why I incorporated it as my background colour. My contents page is quite simple. Obviously, we have a different font for the word contents than we do everywhere else on the page. That makes it stand out, and also it matched the style of my magazine as well, since it's got like the ink splatters around it, which just makes it seem a little bit more, less formal, which is also the same as all the other fonts on my page. They're not very formal. I've chosen the black and the white for my font because it's on the red background and those are quite clear to read. The words Rock Circuit in the top right hand corner had gone from white to black because they are less important than the white on the page, because you've already read the name of my magazine on my front cover and it has to be on every single page due to the codes and conventions, but it's not necessarily the most important thing on the page anymore. We have the artist Jessica Smith showing up on the left hand corner. She has a photo which is not the largest photo on the page, but it's the only black and white photo, which really goes well with the colour palette of my magazine, because I did more than one shoot and I wanted at least one photo of another shoot on my magazine contents page, and since she is my second artist, that's where I decided to put that photo. The Page numbers are in black boxes to make them stand out because they're in white, and so is the other font, so the white on the black together makes them stand out a lot more. Obviously the name Lucy Jones is in the same place as it was on my front cover, more or less, to make it stand out, but also make it easy to find on the page. It's also as large as it was before, and the number 50 is in black rather than white to make it stand out more than the other numbers, and also because it overlays the text Lucy Jones, I didn't want to have it in a box. Finally, we have my double page spread, which doesn't have as much synergy with my other pages as I would have liked, since it has a white background rather than a red background. But for my model, it made more sense to have her on a white background rather than a red, because her hair is also quite dark, and it would have made my magazine seem too dark, and I would have had to have all the text in white, which makes it less clear, especially when it's this size. Overnight and Awesome is in black and bold, and it fills up the whole top left of the page. That's because it is hugely important, and it is also the main theme of this article. The strap line, drop cap, pull quotes, and the bar at the bottom left, and the words Rock Circuit, issue number, and the page numbers are all in the same red as is on my front cover and contents page, because I wanted to keep the synergy, and I also wanted to keep the red because it was in my colour palette. The yellow has synergy with Kerrang magazine, which is the one I deconstructed, although it is darker than on Kerrang magazine because I wanted it to match more with the top of the guitar rather than with Kerrang magazine, rather than Kerrang's magazine's fluorescent yellow. And I also, when it was darker, it became clearer than when it was light because it's on such a white background. My text is all in black because it's clear, and it's standard within magazines that most of the text is black because it's easy to read. My target audience was very similar to Kerrang magazine's target audience, so the tone and register of my magazine is also very similar, which is why there is obviously no swearing within my article, but there is some slang terms, although not masses of slang terms because they weren't needed in my article. So I've got the page numbers on every single page and the issue number on every single page and the words Rock Circuit somewhere on every single page. My double page spread isn't as imaginative with fonts as my front cover and contents page because it's an article and it needs to be easy to read. And obviously it needed to be easier to read than my contents page and front cover. But also on my contents page and front cover, I was able to have the font slightly larger to make it clearer, whereas on my double page spread I couldn't if I wanted to have all the information on it that I did want to.